So how do you actually get an internship? The first thing that needs to happen is one of the decision makers at the company, someone who is empowered to make hiring decisions. Usually someone who's a manager, director, partner, CEO, C-suite, senior manager, someone fairly high up. They have to make you an offer, right? They have to say, hey, yes, come in and get some work experience or get an internship with us. And the way you do that is by having a conversation with that person. You're not just going to be able to email a company and they just say, yeah, let's start an internship starting tomorrow. They're going to want to talk to you first. Basically, they're going to want to interview you first. They want to chat with you, usually in person or over a video call. And I'll call them interviews. Okay, so you need interviews. And there are two types. There are what we call formal and there are what we call informal. A formal interview is like when I applied for the KPMG internship. They said, hey, we'd like to invite you to the office to have an interview with the team. And they asked me lots of questions and then they came back with a decision. They either said, yes, we want to hire you or no, we don't want to hire you. That's a formal interview. That's one way you can get internships. The other way though, is you get informal interviews, which are kind of like, we could also just call them chats. These are when you talk to a decision maker at a company, but it's not a formal interview. I'll give you an example. I got an internship at a very big global commercial property company. And the way I got that is I had a chat with the head of one of the teams there. And after the chat, we agreed that I'll do an internship with them. So it wasn't a formal interview, but because I impressed them in the chat, they agreed to having me as an intern. So you can either get an internship this way or this way. Now, how many of these do you need? In my experience, the most you need in terms of the formal interviews would be 5. Typically, clients do not need more than 5 interviews to get an offer. In fact, they often need, like for internships, usually like 1 or 2 max. And that will then get you an offer. Now, what about these chats? Let's just be a bit more conservative because often these don't convert right away. So let's just say 10. If you have 10 informal chats with decision makers at target companies that you want to intern at and you play your cards right, you will easily get an internship. In fact, probably it's more like 3 or 4. Why do I set these numbers higher? I set them higher because I'd rather you do too much work and get too many offers than you don't do enough work and then you're left empty-handed. It's way better to get like 3, 4 offers and have to turn 2 or 3 down than to get 0, right? So aim for 10 chats or 5 formal interviews. So now the question is, how do you get these things? There's 2 main ways. To get formal interviews, you usually need to apply. And for me, what this means is you basically find an internship that's a good fit, and usually they're advertised. And you can find these on a normal job website, or you can just look on the company's website. So you basically research all the companies that you want to work for, look at their website. A lot of them will have a careers page and they'll have opportunities there, and you can just apply. So you need to make sure you're a good fit first, like you can actually add value. You then need to have a really good resume. Usually that's a resume that's tailored. And tailoring isn't complicated. It just means that you're telling them specifically why you're a good fit for that role. You don't tell them a whole range of stuff that doesn't matter to them. You just think, what do they care about? And you kind of tweak your resume and focus on that stuff. Sometimes they'll ask you for a cover letter. I wouldn't bother submitting one unless they ask you. What I would recommend is sending what we call a personal note, like an email or a LinkedIn message that you send to the hiring manager. This will automatically set you apart from almost everyone else. If it's really genuine, you tell them why you love the job and why you think you're a good fit, and ask if it's possible to chat. That's all you need to do. And the other thing I'd recommend is your LinkedIn profile has to be really good and aligned with these sorts of jobs. And another really important step here is the follow-up. So when you apply, don't just cross your fingers and wait. Follow up on your application, like a few days later or a week later. If you do these all really, really well, you should be able to apply and get invitations to these formal interviews. If you submit 10 applications, you should be getting at least 1 interview. This completely depends on the types of jobs you're going for, how competitive they are. If you're just going for like Google, Amazon, all these high demand companies, then your chances are a lot lower, right? Although if you're really specific, like you're finding startups that you really like and they fit with all your skills and they're in your local area and you're following them and you apply there with an amazing application, there's a very high chance you'll get that, especially if the competition's low. So what you could do is, if you're getting a minimum of 10 applications to one interview, just do 50 applications and you'll get 5 interviews. So that's one way. Now, if I was you, and this is what a lot of our clients do, is I would go this route. And this route, we can just call it messaging. Basically, you're messaging to get these informal chats. So how do you do this? Firstly, you need to find a good company. They have to have, they need someone like you. And that's for the job that you want, right? So there's no point going to a company and saying, hey, I really want to have an AI consulting internship with you, when they just, I don't know, they don't even do anything to do with that. They're probably not going to need it, right? You have to figure out where these jobs kind of exist and go there. Then what you have to do, you have to find decision makers. Now, decision makers are people who, they can make hiring decisions and they have the authority to say, hey, let's bring this person on as an intern. Or they have to be someone who can influence the decision maker. So, for example, like a manager might not be able to hire someone directly, but they can strongly recommend to the CEO that he or she bring you on as an intern. So you need to find a company where they potentially need someone like you for that type of job that you want, or that type of experience or internship you want. And then you figure out who the decision makers are. You make sure you have a very, very good LinkedIn that's optimized towards all this. And then you send a cold message. There's two main ways. The first way is you're just really straight to the point and you just tell them everything in one email. It's a bit more of a longer email, and you tell them why you love the company, why you're reaching out, what you think you can help them with as an intern, and some evidence that backs that up. And then you ask them if they'd ever consider taking on someone for work experience. And I prefer using the term work experience because it's a lot softer and people are more inclined to respond and help you get work experience than an official internship, which sounds a bit more difficult. And you just straight up ask them. And for me, that's how I got one of mine at the commercial real estate firm. I was very straight to the point. I think within like 20 minutes, the general manager responded, forwarded my email to the right team, and then they set up a chat. Eventually, you have to ask for what you want. So eventually, you're going to have to ask if you can have an internship with them. Otherwise, nothing will happen. But sometimes we like to go in soft. And this means that you start with something a lot simpler in your initial message. You could talk about how you love the post that they did recently and you love what the company is doing in this specific project. Then you could ask a really nice, simple question that just shows you're really curious to try and get a response and build rapport. So maybe you ask what their biggest tip would be for someone looking to break into the field. It's something that's just a small question that'll get a response. Once you've built the rapport, a couple back and forth messages, you might say, any chance we can have a chat, or any chance I could gain some experience with your team. So that's pretty much it. And again here, the follow-up is critical here because a lot of the messages that you send, they won't get responded to. You might send 100 messages, you might get like 20 responses. Some people will get way more, like 50, 60, but I'm just kind of trying to paint this worst case for you because again, I'd rather you do too much work and get too many offers. But if you then follow everyone up 2, 3, 4 times really nicely, your response rate might go from like 20% to like 40% or 50%. Because a lot of people, they'll see your message, they'll be too busy to respond and they'll just forget about it. They'll never respond. But if you follow them up a few times really nicely, you'll find people respond. I had one client, he wanted to work for this web development firm and he followed up 4 times, didn't get a response. And then I think the 5th time, she got back, said, so sorry, had all of these things going on, and she offered to have a chat. So this is what we call more of like how you get hidden internships. I had a client recently, he got a data analyst job. But before he got that, he emailed the CEO, I believe, of this company, and he got an internship. Emailed him, had a chat, got an internship. After a little while, he just progressed to a full-time paid role. And even if it doesn't progress into a full-time paid role, it's okay because you've got amazing experience, you just go and get one somewhere else. So these are the 2 things here. And now, what about the ratios? I would be very conservative here. So to get one of these informal chats, I would probably send 20 messages. So the ratio would be 20 to 1. And again, it could be way better. We had a client just a month ago. He sent one email and got one chat with the CEO of an AI company. And obviously it depends on the quality, right? If you send 20 crap messages, you probably won't even get one chat. But if you send 5 amazing messages, you'll probably get 2 chats. So if you want to guarantee an internship, absolutely guarantee one, then I would send a total of 200 cold messages. And this could be on LinkedIn, could be on email. Honestly, you'll probably get an internship within 50 messages. But I'd rather you get too many opportunities than not enough. Now, a lot of people will try this and then they'll say, Mackenzie, it's not working for me. And it's actually very easy to diagnose if this is the case. So if you're applying, there's 2 main factors. We've got quality and we've got quantity. And it's the same with messages. So if you're not getting formal interviews, it's something to do with your applications. And it's either quality or it's quantity. So how do we measure the quality of your applications? The best way to measure that is your conversion rate. So calculate your conversion rate. How many applications are you sending versus interviews you're getting? If you've sent 50 applications and you've got 0, this means your quality is really, really bad. It's not a quantity issue because you've already sent 50, a big number here. On the other hand, if you've sent 10 applications and you've got 2 interviews, right? So the quality, this isn't the issue, it's the quantity that's the issue, right? So calculate your conversion rate. If your conversion rate is similar to this, just keep bumping up the quantity. If you calculate your conversion rate and it's really below what we need, then the issue is quality, not quantity. And if your issue is quality, it's one of these things that's the issue. Either you're going for jobs where you're not really a good fit, or if the competition's crazy high, that could just be a reason. Some internships are crazy competitive. It could be that your resume is not tailored, your application isn't great. It could be that your cover letter isn't great. It could be that your personal note isn't great. Your LinkedIn's not optimized and aligned, or you're not following up. If the quality is good and you're getting interviews, just bump up the quantity. If you've got no informal chats, then it's because your messaging strategy is wrong. What's wrong? It can either be the quantity or the quality. So first, let's check quality. So if you've already sent 20 messages or 30 messages, how many chats have you got? If your number is lower than this, and this is a 5% conversion. So if your conversion is like 0% after 20 or 30, then it's a quality issue, most likely. On the other hand, if you've sent 10 messages and you've got 1 chat, your quality is actually good. That's like a 10% conversion rate. So your issue isn't quality. Yours is just quantity. Because if you just 10x that, you'll get 10 chats and you'll get an internship. Now, a lot of people, they're talking to decision makers at these companies. It goes really well, but they never ask for an internship. Now, this is a big mistake because ultimately, if you don't ask for something, you probably won't get it. A CEO or a director or a manager is not just going to randomly come out to you and say, hey, do you want an internship? Probably not. You just have to ask. At some point during this chat, or even after the chat, maybe you've had an amazing chat with this person, but you didn't ask them directly. You could come back to them and say, hey, and make the ask. I love what you're doing at the company. I love the projects that you're working on. I think there's a really good cultural alignment here. I think I could be a great addition to the team. I know this is a big ask, but is there any chance you'd consider bringing someone on for work experience? You've got to ask. And with the interviews here, if you're getting like 5 interviews and no offers, probably the issue isn't anything here. It's just that your interviews aren't great. If you have been trying this for a while and it's not working, figure out where's your bottleneck. Like, what's the issue that's stopping you from moving forward? Treat all of this like a science experiment. So test stuff out, measure the results, and then iterate, change things. Don't do the same thing over and over and over again if it's not working. Try a sample size. Send 20 messages, see what happens. If you get no responses, it's not a good strategy. So call that batch 1. Now try another batch. Go, okay, that didn't work. Let me try this message. Did that work better? Great. Anyway, if you do this properly, you will get at least 1 internship. Thanks guys and good luck.